The goal of this podcast is to help you break in and thrive in advertising. And we do that every week by sharing the stories and advice of those rocking it on the other side. This week we have on Colin Daniels. Colin is a digital editor at Adweek and the host of the Young Influentials podcast, which you should definitely add to your listening regimen. From influencers to C-suite executives, Daniel sits down with some of the most influential voices in media, tech, and marketing who are creating real change in their fields. Whether they're helping people match and make connections or developing the social strategy behind your favorite TV show, these individuals are the brains behind the things we watch and see daily. Colin Daniels' career spans the fields of marketing, public relations, and journalism. As a journalist, Colin focuses on entertainment, lifestyle, and real estate. Colin has covered events like the Academy Awards and London Fashion Week Men's. As we recorded, he was at South by Southwest in Austin, and we shared many laughs and pieces of advice and almost dove deep into relationship advice, although we all know I need that. But we kept on track for the most part, talking about breaking into media, marketing, advertising, and journalism. You're going to love this one, and you're going to want to connect with Colin. So head over to our Instagram at Breaking and Entering Pod, all one word, and you can connect with him there. Oh, and we also have his recommended resources listed there just for you. Now on with the show. You're going to love this one. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast, and as usual, I'm your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Mikey. All right. Colin Daniels, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. How are you doing today?
I am good, reporting live from Austin, South by. Happy to be back. It has been fun, but like constant, ongoing, like that Lady Gaga meme where she's like, bus, club, another club, no sleep.
No
That's
sleep.
literally been like these last 4 or 5 days. I don't know how many days it's been, but yeah, that is the vibe.
How many more days do you have down there?
I have one more day and then I have to head back.
Gotcha.
Sad face.
Gotcha. But are you looking forward to get back to your routine, whatever that consists of?
Not really. Like, to be honest, like I like being the airport's become my home for the last like month because I got back from Australia, was home for a week, and then like now here. So I've just been traveling. I was gonna say traveling dinosaur, but I'm not a dinosaur. But that's what's been going on.
Traveling dinosaur. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like a traveling T-Rex is what I've been. So
Okay. Nothing wrong with that, being a traveling T-Rex. Amazing. So South by, I'm sure you'll have some content, or I know Adweek will be covering that. So, but I kind of teased at it, and if people clicked on this, they know that you're a digital editor at Adweek and you're a podcast host. The podcast is called Young Influentials. So let's talk about your current role at Adweek. Let's talk about the podcast. Let's talk about you. Give us the rundown. What's your career look like right now? Like, what are you up to?
Oh my goodness, so many things. So at Adweek, I am the host of our podcast, Young Influentials, which is so cool. I really love it. I basically just get to talk to people all the time about stuff. I'm very nosy and also just like to know how people got to where they are and like what they do, especially the cool ones. Because I feel like years ago, like coming through it, it always seemed like everybody's trajectory was like, oh, I interned, then I got this entry level job, and then I became the CEO. And I feel like talking to so many creators and founders and CEOs and CMOs and different people, like they shared how some of them were changed fields or didn't even start in the field altogether. So I think that's really cool how people. Oh my gosh, sorry Siri. I don't know why Siri. Sorry, I don't know why Siri's like talking.
What is?
I don't know why Siri.
What's Siri want?
What's going on? I'm sorry. Mayday.
All good. Actually, I need to mute.
I don't know what
something right now.
Sorry, I don't know what's going on. Siri's like, there we go. Whew. Okay, Siri just like went off.
No, all good.
Siri just. I'll clap and then I'll have you start over.
Okay.
I'm like, okay. Too many. Now, Siri, my phone's going off. Okay.
Siri
Siri is
wants
chaos
to
right
join the
now.
podcast.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Phone is away. Like, okay. Let's try this again.
What was my question?
You you asked like, what do I do currently?
Okay. Yeah. All right, Colin. So we teased at it, but you work at Adweek. You're also the host of Young Influentials, which is a podcast at Adweek. So, and I know we've talked before, and you hold a lot of different roles and you do a lot of different things at Adweek. So, give us the rundown. What is your job description? What does it look like?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, like I'm the host of Young Influentials podcast, which is our millennial Gen Z podcast that I target communications and PR and agency reps in those areas, and also those that target Gen Z millennials. So we keep it fun, lighthearted. Um, we just let whatever happens. Like we're not very organized over there. We like to
Hmm.
keep it fun, and so we talk to creators, we talk to founders, CMOs, and just about like the stuff they're up to, their journey, and how they target and work with millennials and Gen Z. And I think what's really cool is we have so many that have come on there and shared their story, and they've either been like, actually, like I didn't start in this industry, or that wasn't my major, or I wasn't interested in this until later on in life. And I think that paints a really cool picture because I feel like a lot of times when we're going into school or when we're looking for a job and stuff, we think we need to have these pedigrees of this huge background of, say, we want to go to entertainment, like having all these internships at all these studios, or if we want to go into sports marketing, having all these internships at all these like other sports places and stuff. And so many of these people have proven over and over again that they're doing it and done it without entering those fields and having that experience. Like we've had some who didn't go to college at all, some that only went to college a little bit. We have some who were still in high school
Hmm.
who are like, oh, I started this business like during the pandemic when I was bored. So it really paints a full picture and gives honestly anybody from any age that idea and that inspiration that you don't have to have a certain background or have come from a certain area or have a certain experience to do what you want to do. And I feel like that's something that we get out of every episode, and that's really cool to kind of see play out day after day.
You hear a lot of, I'm sure you hear a lot of different stories and how they got to where they're at today. That's very similar to the goal of this podcast. And then also like kind of looking back and giving the advice. So who's the target audience for your podcast?
So I always tell people our target is Gen Z, millennial communications, and marketing professionals, and then those who look to target them. So I think of this as the podcast I would have wanted as a high schooler or someone who's in college who's looking to enter and break out into whatever field that is, because we bring on companies and people from gaming, from movies, from entertainment, from creators, from all aspects of life in different areas. So I always view it as the podcast that I would be playing as a kid or a student who wants to figure out how do I get to where my favorite celebs and creators are in life if I
Gotcha.
don't have the experience or if I want to know how to get like an internship or something in that field.
Love it. How many episodes have you done? Who are some of the
Oh,
guests that you've had on? Like
uh,
tease at the content for our listeners out
I'm
there.
trying to think. We've had, oh gosh, I don't even know how many episodes. I honestly just go, but to tease, we have a really fun one with Chef Emerald coming up this summer.
Chef
We've
Emerald?
Chef Emerald is coming,
Like
people. You heard it
Emerald
here
Lagasse,
first.
like was it
He,
Lagasse?
like, yes, yes. We
Like
did a really
Bam?
fun episode with him. Yeah, so we have him. He was really cool. He and his son, they were so cool, so much fun. They're coming.
What are they up
The
to?
Scott,
Cooking
they're
stuff.
like they're cooking up some amazing stuff, and they went through like their menu for the spring and summer, and just how his shows and how his journey came to be, and how his son stepping up and taking over Emeralds, and he was just sharing his story. And he's really cool. Like that episode blew me away. It's a really cool episode, so I can't
Okay.
wait for everybody to hear
When's
that
that
one.
coming out?
That one comes out sometime this summer. I don't have the
Okay.
schedule in front of me, so I can't give the
Gotcha.
exact
No, no,
date,
no.
but
All
it
good.
comes out this summer, and you all will love that one. I've also gotten to talk to one of my favorite people who got me into podcasting, Michael Bostic from Dear Media, one of the CEOs, and he is phenomenal, just amazing. And I've had various other TikTokers who've come on. Jaden Gomez, one of my favorite TikTokers, she's coming on in an upcoming episode.
Nice.
She was really cool. So lots of cool, various people from, as you can see, different aspects and different backgrounds.
I love it. Amazing. So young influentials, I thought it would be, when I first heard of it, I thought it would just be like you would be interviewing young people, but that's not the case.
We believe that age is a number here, and we are all young at
Yeah.
heart.
What's your skincare routine? I know you talk about that quite a bit.
That's a whole nother episode. But honestly, everybody, make sure you use SPF every day. Get a vitamin C serum. Moisturize at night. Don't forget to moisturize your neck and hands. Yeah,
I don't do any of that.
you need to get on that.
I know. I'm looking at myself in this video, and I'm like, oh my god, it's going downhill quick. I guess working in advertising too doesn't really help with that, but thanks for that. We'll probably clip that, put that on social, so that's good. What about So talked about young influentials. Now give me a little bit about the other roles and responsibilities you have as a digital editor at Adweek, or is that the whole thing? Like what else you got going on?
So I mean, as one of the digital editors there, like we're basically one of the final hands that goes through like all of our web copy and copy that comes out. So stuff you see on the site that everybody's like, oh, who actually edits that type of stuff? That's what a digital editor is.
Oh wait, what type of content?
Like the articles and stuff that people see on the site. Like a lot of times people are like, who edits that? Like who's over that type of stuff?
All the articles you're saying?
Yeah, so all the articles and stuff. So we have like channel editors that do like say the first rounds of edits, and then like digital editors were like the ones that give like the last look around to see like, is this good? Do we need to ask the reporter like to clarify this? So we're kind of the last hands in that process. So I get to read all day, which is fun. So I love reading, and everybody covers such cool stuff from AI and Chat GPT and all that stuff. So reading and editing helps me like keep up to date with like what's actually going on and what everybody's doing, which is really cool.
Interesting. Yeah, no, you know everything that's going on then if you have to, you're the final piece to it.
I try to. I'm still learning about the metaverse, so we shall see.
And you recently posted 2 days ago, I see, with Patrick Buchanan.
He was awesome. Yeah, the VP of Marketing of Good American. They are amazing, and so learning about like how they do stuff and how they've just been stepping out the box and just paving their own way in terms of like marketing and how they do their casting process and all that has been so cool. So he was another like really really cool person to talk to.
Gotcha. Amazing. I'm curious then. I know. So our podcast talks to a lot of aspiring advertisers, but we also talk to aspiring journalists. We also talk to aspiring marketers that want to go client side. So I want to kick it back now. Like, when did you decide you wanted to be in journalism or to be an editor at a publication in your life? What was that moment that clicked for you?
I'm trying to think. I feel like honestly, like journalism writing was always something that I was interested in based off of like various reporters and stuff. I grew up watching like Anderson Cooper, Katie Couric, Soledad O'Brien, various different ones. I was always just like, oh, like whatever they're doing, that's what I want to do. And I always saw them like interviewing and talking to cool people and doing that stuff. So that's what really drew me in. And then marketing, like I've always just been somebody who would watch a commercial or a campaign and be like, oh, that was really cool that they did it like that, or I really like that element of that, or why did they use glass packaging versus paper packaging? I've always been that type of person to like dissect somebody's marketing campaign. So those were that was kind of the formula that inspired me to get into journalism, and then specifically like marketing and journalism, and then kind of how those two got married.
Gotcha. And what was your first job then? Like, what was that break-in for you? I guess
my first job.
What was your first professional job, and then what was your first marketing or journalism job that you recall?
Well, my first professional job was Abercrombie and Fitch, and I loved that job. It was so much fun. I like
How'd you get it?
growing up. Uh, growing up, I always wanted to work there, and I think you had to be like I think you had to be 18. I don't know. I feel like you had to be 18 to work there. So I remember waiting till my 18th birthday, and I like went in there, and at the time they did a recruitment process where like whatever, um, and I went in, and I was just so passionate about it, and then like when I finally heard back, they're like, "Oh, you got it!" Like I loved it, and I did that for 2 years, and then. Switched over to working for Apple, where I did Apple retail through grad school. Loved it there. But as a student, through it all, like I would always volunteer at local film festivals and
Mm,
music festivals and stuff to kind of get that like media marketing experience. Like here in Austin, I did South by Southwest. I feel like the Austin Film Festival. At any time, like any of those events or stuff would come and happen here, like I would always just either I don't recommend this, but I had to do it. Skip class and like go to those or
yeah.
leave class early or stuff. I was just like, yo, I came here to network.
I feel
Like,
like professors don't care. Like if you're honest with
yeah,
them,
like,
like you're like, yeah, I'm going to
and
this festival.
and honestly, I remember I did that in grad school, where there was a movie premiere where like Dakota Johnson, and a few other actors, and it was right. I had night classes, and it was like a 5 p.m. premiere, and I remember I got to class like the last hour or the last 30 minutes, like skipped it completely.
Hmm.
And my teacher was like, she was very, very strict, like was strict with everybody pretty much. But with me, she had a soft spot. And so when I got to the class and I was like, yeah, everybody was like, oh yeah, he skipped to go to this premiere. And I like walked in the class and she was like, well, aren't you going to show me the pictures? And
Hmm.
everybody was like, wait, what? They're like, he's not in trouble. And I like remember going up to her and like showing the different pictures that I got from the premiere and stuff. And I would always tell my professors and stuff, be like, yo, I came here to network. Like, I remember when I skipped class to go to the H&M Balmain launch party in New York because I was in Boston in school. So I like just did that. Like I did like tons of that stuff where I was just like, yo, I just need to be in the room and
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
meet who I need to meet.
You
So
don't want to tell
I
like
yeah.
you don't. I mean, like no professor wants to be like to hear that their class is not important. But I'm sure you didn't like phrase it like that.
Yeah, and I feel like most of mine were very supportive. Like I would tell them, be like, yeah, they'd be like, yeah, like no, that's good for you to do that, long as you're like doing your work and
Yeah,
making sure
get
you're
it
checking
done.
with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all pretty much were like that. Even like the strict one, where I'd be like, hey, like I'm going to this like film screening or going to this thing, and they'd be like, okay, cool, but like make sure you turn in your
Right.
assignments and stuff to
And
me
that's
by
that's
X,
kind
Y,
of
and
like
Z
how
time.
work is. Like what you're doing right
Yeah,
now. You're at South by Southwest and you're working for Adweek and I'm sure you had approvals or they're paid for you. I'm sure they paid for you in your housing. Like, but they also expect you to get your day job done. Like we'll
yeah,
offer these. We don't care if you go to this as long as you have a rationale. Like that's how the corporate setting works as well. If you're at a decent company that cares about your development, and that should definitely be
yeah,
a factor of what
exactly.
you look into.
Yeah, exactly. So I always tell people, I'm like, if you see these opportunities, like whether it's at your school or different, like in the career wise, at these different summits and conventions and stuff that you want to go to, like
Mhm.
definitely like make yourself available where you can go to them and further your career and network. Like I feel like that's a big part of these like types of professional conferences is networking, and a lot of times we're like, oh, well, that's during work hours. Like I don't know if they're gonna like. It's always a no until you ask. So it's like you
Mhm.
kind of have to like put yourself in that position and really offer it up if you want to like do that next level, actually like network and level up in your career.
It took me a while to learn that when I was an undergrad. Um, I really didn't start because a lot of people want to wait till it's like internship or job search season, which as we're recording this now, it is the prime time for that in the advertising agency world, and I'm sure it is for journalism. And most internships are starting to start their recruiting now if they're not started already. But yeah, like I just waited till it was like I got old enough, but like I regret not going to more sooner. I guess it all worked out. It's not the end of the world, but yeah, if you're listening to this and you're younger, if you're a young influential and you're young, you definitely should start like going to these events and like seeing if your school or your organization can help fund for some of that too.
And I feel like a thing that I was talking to, like, the person I was interviewing yesterday, we were talking about, like, yo, how did we do that? Like, we were full-time students volunteering at these things and doing all this stuff, and it's like, I was telling her, I was like, yo, I was taking like a full schedule of classes, going and working these events at night and stuff, because I knew I wanted to break into this industry. And I feel like a lot of times people are like, oh, that's too much work, or that's so tired, like, when are you going to sleep or see friends and stuff? And it's like, you have to make those, it's like, it's not something anybody wants to, but you have to make those sacrifices to get those doors open and those things that you want to do. Like, you can't be like, oh, well, I'd rather just, sit around and watch Netflix versus meeting for coffee with someone who was asking for mint teas for like the fall or something. And it's like, nobody wants to do that. Everybody wants to hang out with their friends, but it's like, you have to, it all comes with sacrifices. You have to
Yeah.
sacrifice that time and those things to get to the places that you want to be.
And it's definitely about balance. And yeah, like when you were talking about like when being younger and I think that also what motivated me was I need a damn job. Like
Honestly.
like now I can see like I can coast a little bit more. I'm still like passionate about podcasting on the side. I care much about my work. I like to get in early. I would say I'm an overachiever, but like the stress is not there as much now because I have my job. When I was a student, there was a lot of pressure. Like you're graduating at this date, and my parents were. I was fortunate where my parents were able to help me out, and I want to make them proud and like show the ROI on that degree. Not everybody's in that situation, but like I was hungry to get something out there, like to get a job. So I would have done anything.
Yeah, that's how I was. Like, I'm with internships and working and stuff. I was like, yo, if I don't do it, nobody else is going to give it to me. So I have to be the one to be out here advocating for myself. So if you're at school, going to the job fairs, going to the internship fairs, and networking with people on LinkedIn, like, that's a cool tool that we have nowadays where we can basically network, send a message to tons of people from all over the world, like, honestly, laying on the couch
Yeah,
or wherever. Like, you can do it from
people used to
wherever.
have to send physical letters and like find the address and like mail it out. Now we have LinkedIn, and like now I'm also Colin, I'm helping other students across like different universities across the country start their own damn podcast because it is probably the best networking tool possible. And as you know, like we do this very often, and there's just the level of intimacy in talking with you and getting to know you through this is one of the ultimate forms of networking. And I'm trying to get students to learn that and start their own and create their own brand. And it seems to be working. We got about like 7 or 8 podcasts now that are launching that I'm
Come
really proud of.
on. No, but that's so true. And I feel like a lot of times, like, especially when it comes to like podcasting and stuff, like, I used to be one of those too, like, watching various YouTubers and stuff growing up. I'd be like, oh, well, like, maybe I'll start a YouTube, maybe I'll start a podcast when I have X, Y, and Z. And so many creators and people I've talked to have been like, yo, don't wait till you have a
No.
huge camera or a big setup or a ring light or whatever. Like, you have to start doing that stuff now. Like, everybody's first video is gonna stink and like not do well. Like, you have to
My first like
try
30
and do
weren't
it.
great, and that's okay.
Like, and I feel like a lot of times people are just like scared to fail or scared to like start in that beginning. Like, everybody wants to just immediately be an award winning, I don't know, like Charlie D'Amelio of podcasting or whatever their thing is. And
Mhm.
it's like, everybody starts somewhere. Everybody's first video, first whatever isn't dreamy or ideal. Like, you have to start from
And what
somewhere.
I always tell people is whatever your side project is, let's say it's podcasting or poetry that you post on Instagram, it's a documentation of your process and progress. Like you're showing your growth over time. It should be for you. It should be like a diary that you look back at that, hey, like you're going to look back at your first episode, your first post, and you're going to cringe. And then that's great because that means you're looking back and you've grown so much. I never established myself as a thought leader. I never will. I'm only interviewing people that are, and that helps me out a lot too. So it's a documentation of my process and progress over time that helps me a lot. And then I'm not an expert. That's how I think about it, and I don't lose sleep over it.
No, that's so true. And I mean, I'm one of those where it's like, even if you're somebody like me who doesn't look back at their old stuff because it is cringy, like, that's fine. Like, you just can't, I always tell people, like, you can't get so in your head where you're like, oh, I don't even want to try because I'm gonna like you just can't.
There
You
are
just have
people
to
that
do it.
do
Like
that though, Colin. Like,
it's.
it,
I was one of them. I just had to be like, you
yeah,
know
but
what, shut up and get it done.
exactly. Like, and that's like, I try to push people. I'm like, you got to get over it. Like, it, get out of your head. Like, people don't think that much. I guess we really only care about it. Like, a lot of people care about themselves more so.
Mhm.
Like, they're not looking, they're not judging. And I have to remind myself that too.
And it's like I always have to tell people when they're like, "Oh, I hate hearing myself the way I sound." I'm like, everybody hates the way they sound on camera. Everybody hates looking at themselves. I'm like, that's I always paint it where I'm like, that's normal. Like you're not going to, and that kind of helps in the moment. Like get over that weird fear where it's like, "Ugh, I
Yeah.
don't want to speak." Like it's like
And also
everybody
getting a
hates
nice
it.
mic helps. Like,
Yeah.
makes you sound better.
But I mean, like, even if you, I feel like even when you do get like a $5,000 mic, like, you're still gonna be like, oh, why
Yeah.
did I make that weird face there? Or why did I like? We're always gonna find something about like whatever. But
Yeah,
it's like
Colin, how many times
stuff
have
that
you
only
went
you
back and
notice.
listened to your own episodes? Like, I barely ever do it. Like, because I'm good. I don't need it. I don't need to listen to that.
Yeah, I'm always just like, you know what? If I say something weird in the moment, you know what? It is what it is. Like
Yeah,
and that's the thing that I always try to like let my guests know too. Where it's like we're all human, so like we're not gonna get everything right. We're not gonna say everything as eloquently as we would have liked to have said it
of
like
course.
prior or like how we've rehearsed it. So it's and I feel like those are the moments that make you feel more human. It's like whenever you can give like a general whatever answer response.
I used to edit out all the buts and ums and filler words with a software I have, and it just made it sound so like choppy and terrible. But I
Like,
realized the ums and the buts. Exactly. I realized the ums and the buts are like make it sound human, make it sound more conversational, and makes the podcast actually flow really nice. So I keep
Yeah,
them
'cause
in.
it's like end of the day, you're not a robot unless if you are an AI chat GPT bot,
That'd be
like
cool.
I welcome that. I love that for you. No
Yeah.
offense if you are
Sometimes I
AI.
feel like I kind of want to be. I don't know. Have you ever watched that one movie, Her? I think it's called Her,
Oh yeah, yeah,
with
yeah, from 2013. Yeah, with what's his face? Yeah,
Joaquin Phoenix. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Oh
that's
gosh,
like
yeah,
gonna happen soon.
2013.
I could use
What a
like an
year.
AI significant other. I can't. It's not working out for me in real life. So
Oh my gosh. Well, I was like, we'll have another episode
yeah,
where we
yeah.
kind of
Never
delve
mind. I
into where
digress.
we delve into
Leave it in.
that.
Other big break-in moments for you, other big lessons, looking back, advice. We kind of just went off and said some good stuff, but like big career moments, like was there an interview? Were you at the right place at the right time? Did you prepare really well for something that got you something? Just like what are those stick out points in your career that you want to like kind of relive for us?
I feel like one important lesson that one of the like bosses at one of the film festivals I volunteered at during like when I was in school, I remember we were all like a little nervous, like interns or volunteers, whatever, and we were working with what's his face from like a few actors and stuff that I had like admired for a while that were like premiering films at this film festival. And we were all so nervous, and she was like, "Hey, you guys, like, just so you know, everything tonight is gonna go wrong." And we all were like, "Excuse me?" She's like, "It is, but like, you gotta learn to just go with the flow, and nobody knows it's going wrong but you. So if you don't add attention to it, it's not that big of a deal." And I've always taken that advice with me where if I'm doing an event or something, I'm always like, you know what? It's not always going to go as how I planned it, but if I just like keep my attitude, whatever, and just go with the flow, like it's going to work out great. So I feel like that's like one piece
Oh,
that
I
I've
need
kept
I
with.
need to hear that. I always try to plan and very type A and like with work, especially like events that I'm putting on, like I want it to go really well and it never goes well. Like it never
No,
goes to my
that's a
expectations.
yeah, and I feel like we all, like I call myself type AB because I have type A tendencies. But then at some point I'm like, you know what, it's just chill, man. Like it's all gonna work out. Like just be cool. But like when it comes to like any like craft or whatever, I'm just like it has to be like I'm very just like it has to be like this, that, and I'll be like the one that look at a picture and be like, I see a small pixel there. This will not do. Like I can get like
Yeah.
detail type
You
A,
could turn it
but
on
I
and
feel
off.
like exactly. But I just feel like when it's like events and stuff like that, it's like end of the day, if it's an event or something, you want people to just connect. You want people to feel like they had space. So when we were working with like a film, whatever, we're here trying to accommodate and make sure the filmmakers and the whatever feel good, they feel comfortable and stuff. So whether, I don't know, the shrimp cocktail didn't come out our time, or whether we forgot the right snacks in so and so's dressing room, like nobody cares. But it's like, but did the audience and did the filmmakers and everybody feel comfortable? Did they feel like they had the tools they needed to succeed?
Yeah.
Yes. And her whole thing with saying that was like, you know what, like you have to be able to shift. Stuff's going to change and not going to go as well as planned. And I remember one of the people in my life mentioned, they were like, life's 90% what happens, and life is 90% what how you react, 10% what happens.
Hmm.
So it's like you could somebody could like accidentally slap your bagel down the street, and you could either be like, that's the worst day of my life, or you could be like, that sucks, like somebody slapped my bagel, and like keep on going. It's like you can't let every little small thing control and determine like your outcome on stuff. So I always tell people, I'm like, something might not go as I expected, but I have the power to be like, oh, that was good, that was positive, I hate it, or I can take that as if like, you know what, that's not what I expected, but here's how I can shift it and still make it into something.
Yeah. It's hard to do. It's hard to do sometimes,
Listen,
especially if
listen. I
somebody
just like
slaps my
listen.
damn bagel. We're having a problem with.
Well, especially when it's a Panera bagel and you have that hazelnut spread just right and it's toasted perfectly. Like, I mean, thank goodness I haven't had anybody slap my bagel, but like, I'm craving a bagel, so maybe
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm projecting my own fears on everybody, but that's just like an attitude that I've always like kept, where it's like stuff may not go as planned. Same thing with your career, like. I've talked to, like I had mentioned earlier, I've talked to so many people who are like, oh, I started off as a historian and now I'm working in music or whatever, or it took me whatever, how many years to get to this spot. It's like everybody's journey is different. And one thing that I had to stop doing, especially like when it's intern season like it is now, someone's success is not your failure. Like just because you see a friend like get this internship over here who quote unquote you might think isn't working as hard as you, or somebody else over here who like you're like, how did they get that job, their GPA is not as high as mine, like just because they're doing well, their success doesn't mean you're a failure at it. Like everybody's journey is different and you can't compare and contrast it with
Yeah.
like LinkedIn post and Instagram post and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always just kind of focused on my own potential, and that's probably a pretty good mindset. Like you want to elevate others and help people out and bring people up with you, but like you should never get down by anybody else's success for sure.
Yeah.
I guess when you're younger and you are stressed and you are like, I can see like that happening for sure.
And I mean,
It's
I'll be the
natural.
first to admit, I remember I had friends who would get like internships at these cool broadcasts and cool studios and stuff, and I'd be like, "What the heck? They're not even that creative. How did they get this?" And I would get mad or upset and be like, "Oh, why am I only doing this, or why am I not at X, Y, and Z?" And I had to get to the point where we're like, you know what? Just because they're whatever doesn't
Mhm.
mean that I'm not as good or whatever. And it's like the whole comparison thing. It's like we can't do that. It's like we naturally do that, but we have to remember and remind ourselves that just because they're succeeding or doing what does mean like we're a failure. Like we want to cheer on our friends
Yeah,
and cheer
definitely.
on the people around us.
I love it. Amazing. Was there any other big pieces of like those big points in your career that you want to bring forward?
I'm trying to think. I like right now. I love how like right now I'm blanking, and I'm sure I'd say like definitely like right now like South by like that's something I've always wanted to like speak and moderate
Good.
at, and that has come true, and so like I'm happy about. I feel like that was a big landmark one for me. Going to VidCon was one for me.
You're
Um,
very people oriented, like events, networking, showing up like in person. That's what I'm getting from you here.
Yeah, I was like, I'm a very like like so funny because when I go to these things, I'm always like, I'm shy, and everybody's like, but you're not. Like, I don't get this. It's like once I get warmed up, like then I can like start moving about the cabin. But generally, like I don't know, like one of the things like when going to these things, I used to be shy and feel standoffish about like quote unquote being like I know we all hate this authentic self because we say too much, but I used to be one of those where it's like, oh, if I want to be in media, if I want to be in this, like I have to be this certain way. I have to like these certain things. And like now, like I don't care. I tell people, I'm like, yeah, I just want to go back home and watch Real Housewives for 30 hours instead of going to this like media networking for people under 35. Or, I was listening to Jesse McCartney the other day, and that gave me the idea for this story to do. And I used to be like, oh, I can't talk about those things. People think I'm weird or crazy. And it's like, I always tell people, like, there's only one you, and there's only like, you're the only person that can do the things that you do. So your quote unquote differences are what's going to make you stand out in the room. Like, if you're doing what everybody else is doing, or doing whatever that you think is popular, like, that's not gonna make you stand out. Like, your differences are what make you special, make you stand out. And
Absolutely.
that's cliche that everybody always says, but like, that's so true. Like,
No,
whatever
you're
your
you're
core
you're
strength is,
you're like
make
a
yourself
prime
stand out.
example. Like you're super authentic, just like with our call right now. Like I can tell, and like what you post and your podcasts, like you are your authentic self completely, and that has probably opened so many different doors for you. It's giving you job security, stability, and it gives you confidence. Like there's really no flaws. Like when you're completely tapped into who you are, people will see that they'll want to hire you unless you're like a really bad person truly deep down.
Yeah, I'm like, if you're a bad person and
That could be bad, but like
you're a villain era, like,
sometimes I
let's
get in
break
that
shop.
mode though. Sometimes I get in villain.
We love a good villain. We do, but it's
Yeah,
like, if you're just, in your villain era in life, like,
maybe
let's
tone
break
it down
shop.
if you're in your
Yeah,
villain era.
let's be a little villain. Like, send a petty emoji on Slack of somebody who said something snarky, like the comment of somebody being nasty, but like,
That's
like,
awesome.
don't be a total villain. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
let's
Tone down
workshop
the
that.
villain, but
Let's fix that.
people do like a villain. It adds
You
some
know,
character. It adds some content.
we love a good plot. Yeah, we
Yeah,
love a good
yeah.
plot.
That that it's not a bad idea. People want to talk a little bit once you're in the corporate setting. Why not give them something to talk about?
Oh my gosh. Have a corporate burn book be like, Francis from finance, like, I saw him eat Annabelle sandwich in accounting, and
Oh yeah,
I think, like, if you want to do that, like, offer that, like,
that's
but
good. That's good content.
that's a good villain. That's a good villain.
Yeah.
But like, tone the rest down.
I love it. But the advice it holds though, like be yourself, like you are authentic. You're not a villain right now. Maybe like a little bit on the side.
Yeah, when
That
I get hangry, I'm a villain. When I'm
true,
hangry,
true that.
all bets are off.
True. But I appreciate you coming on and telling us your story, being authentic, giving your advice. I know it was brief and we can talk forever, but people can find out more about you by looking up your name on Adweek, looking up young influentials. Do you have like an email or a LinkedIn? Like, what's your preferred?
Yeah, it's like, you can LinkedIn me. Is that a term? You can email me. You can follow me on social media at COL Meets World. I named it after Boy Meets World because during the pandemic, that's all I watched, and so I made that my whole personality trait of Boy Meets World in '90s. Would you call it a sitcom? I guess '90s sitcoms. Yeah, I made that my whole personality, so that is why it is COL Meets World.
Perfect.
Uh,
That's good branding right there. Perfect. Well, thank you again for coming on, and I hope people reach out, ask you questions. I hope you tune in to Young Influentials as well. Thanks, Colin.
and thank you for having me. Yeah, this was a party.
Of course. Anytime. Thank you so much for listening to this entire episode of the Breaking and Entering Advertising podcast. If you like what you heard, it would mean a lot to us and help us grow and get better guests and better break-ins if you can go to Apple Podcasts and leave us 5 stars and a small review if you have the time. Be sure to connect with our guests if you like what they said by going to our Instagram at Breaking and Entering Pod. That's all one word, Breaking and Entering Pod on Instagram. We have links to their portfolios and their LinkedIn, and they want to connect, so do that. And thank yous. Thank you to Mikey Malarkey, our audio engineer, and Buchan Zhang, our creative director. Can't do it without you two, and a team from the University of Illinois. It's a student team from the agency called AdBuzz. They're a PR agency, and it's been a pleasure working with them. Thank you all so much, and we will see you next week with another amazing guest. Thank you so